Call to order. This is the Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers regular meeting. It is Wednesday, July 24th at 9 a.m. and we are in the Shoreview City Hall Council chambers. Let the record reflect that we are absent two of our members with prior notice. Manager Robertson is doing work on behalf of the city, and Marcy Winant is attending to a family medical crisis down in Texas.
Mr. President, in that case, I move that I become the secretary for the meeting and that Manager Wagaman become the treasurer for the meeting for the reports.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you for that, John. Setting of the agenda. I see we have some changes.
Yes, thank you, President Bradley. Board of Managers, we would like to add the Miron Water Quality Grant contract payment. That would be new item 3. Clean Water Council letter, new action item 5. We handed this out in a packet called the proposed amendment to the agenda. While it appears quite large, I assure you there are minimal changes and we can get the items vetted with staff.
I would move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So that takes us to board minutes.
Mr. President, I'll move approval of the board minutes for July 8th, 2024, the workshop, and the July 10th, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain, was absent from both of those?
Well, I believe that even though you were absent, if you would vote yes, we'd have 3 votes.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
thank you for
you
that.
read the minutes.
I
didn't you?
read them.
Yeah, that's all that's
Yeah,
necessary.
no problem, thanks. So, okay, so then
I forgot we were short.
open mic, I believe we're at the open mic. We do have Marcy Winans on board present by Zoom. We thank her for that. Don't see anyone in the audience who's not a staff member. So I think we can safely move on to items requiring board action.
Yes, President Bradley, first item is a Nelk Ditch 5362 stabilization work order. Tom Schmidt's going to handle that. I'll note that within the proposed, I'll say the amended packet on page 3 is a revised motion for the item.
Welcome, Tom.
Good morning, Mr. President, Manager. Before your consideration is a work order for the stabilization of 5362 in the area of the repair that was just completed. This spring, after the heavy rain, we noticed erosion and sloughing of the ditch bank in the areas where we had work completed, and have taken action to try to stabilize that to prevent further damage. This work is being done under the auspices of minor maintenance, and we're utilizing our contractor pool, and our original repair contractor happens to be in our contractor pool, so we're utilizing that contractor since they're familiar with the site. But the work plan and estimate is beyond the delegated authority to either the administrator or the board president, so we're looking to the entire board to approve the amount. So staff is recommending that the board approve this work order, this individual one-time work order for this work not to exceed $35,546.45.
Mr. President, I'll move approval of the U.S. site work erosion repair proposal work order dated June 28th, 2024, not to exceed $35,546.45, and to and delegate to the administrator on the advice of council the authority to execute the described individual work order.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
So that takes us to what? Rule revisions. Oh, boy, thank you, Patrick.
Yep.
Good morning,
Good
President
morning.
Bradley, Board of Managers. Yes, so back to the rule revision. At this point, we're looking to distribute the draft revisions to the rule for public review and comment. We came to the board at the June workshop with, a draft of that rule language. We've made some minor changes since then, but, no new proposals. So in accordance with state statute, prior to any adoption of the rules, we have to distribute this for public review and comment. That needs to be a period of at least 45 days and include a public hearing. So we are proposing to have the review period start today after the meeting. I'll send, assuming if it passes, I would send out the distribution this afternoon. And we'd have that comment period run until Friday, September 20th, 57 days. And we're looking for the board to set a public hearing on its regular meeting, Wednesday, September 11th. And then included in the packet here, we have the draft rule language in a clean format with the track changes, the red line, as well as a memorandum that describes the changes and the rationale behind them. And so, happy to take any questions from the Board of Managers. Otherwise, there is a resolution and proposed motion.
Very good. Patrick, fortunately, you gave me an opportunity to reread these rules.
Certainly.
Brutal. I have, I think, 4 questions.
Okay.
First one is on page 48.
President, I'll make the motion then.
Oh,
Good.
if you,
Get this going.
we can do it 2 ways.
Yeah.
That's one way.
Move,
that's fine.
move to offer was there a resolution for this too? Well, let's, for discussion purposes, move to offer the resolution 2024-05, directing the administrator to distribute the proposed rule and memorandum for public review and comment period until September 20th, 2024, and to provide the notice for the public hearing at September 11th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Very
Please
good.
go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Let's
So just for the, understand that the process I usually use is when I get a report from a staff person, when I ask questions, and then I go to the motion, but both work. And particularly that motion works very well with that. So my first question is on page 25 of the rules, 48 of our packet. F is being changed. For an application proposing an infiltration area, the applicant will identify, describe, and delineate group, texture, redoxamorphic features or site soils to assess percolation of stormwater runoff from impervious areas, field evaluation of soil permeability in accordance with ASTM 3385 procedure for double ring infometer testing or other appropriate approved method is encouraged. My only question is the word encouraged. Do we require it, or why are we encouraging something?
Maybe Chris can speak on it too, but we don't require it currently or in the proposal. It certainly would be encouraged. I mean, it's going to give us more data on if infiltration should be successful in the proposal, but that's not how we've done it to date. Chris, I expect it's a higher cost to the applicant to do that as well.
Yes, it does add a cost, but it also, there's going to be some sites where it's inappropriate, doesn't fit, that sort of thing. So we wouldn't want to put something that's in there that's going to be required if it is infeasible to do or doesn't provide logical data and put a burden on the applicant to do something that doesn't provide value.
Excellent answer. Thank you. My next question is on page 34 of the Rule 60 of the packet. Small e is new. Permits not required under this rule to remove sediment from an existing constructed stormwater management basin. However, a capital notice of capital intent must be filed. When I see a capital notice of intent, the first thing I did, of course, is go back to the definitions, and there is no notice of intent in the definitions. My solution would be making a small n and a small I, so idiots like me don't go looking for a definition where there is none. Would be my request.
Sure. And so we do have a form that we call the notice of intent, but yeah, we can make that
Do you
change.
actually have a form called notice of intent?
We do.
Well, do you want to put a definition in? See our form? Take your pick.
Yeah, it's referenced. I don't know. I might go for the lowercase. I mean, that
works.
provides us the opportunity to change that, I guess, as well too, if we wanted to pick the
right.
form.
That works. So my next question is on page 37 of the rules, 63 of the packet. I just don't understand small a under 3A. The volume within on-site stormwater ponds is not considered compensatory floodplain storage unless the volume is non-coincident with a 100-year flood peak. I would have thought we would have had to say it has to be greater than. Explain the non-coincident intent here.
And that, shouldn't that be non-coincidental?
I can see Chris wants
Yeah.
to make a comment about the timing of it.
Yeah, Mr. President. The reason we have that talking about non-coincident, basically that means that when we look at a flood flow that's coming through, if you have a site that's along, say, the Rice Creek itself, the water that comes onto the site and goes out into the creek oftentimes comes through a lot faster than the levels in the creek rises up.
Timing issue.
It's a timing issue. And so we want to make sure that the issue isn't a timing if they're going to get credit for that storage they're creating within their pond. And so we want that storage to go away and then the levels rise up next to it in order to get that credit for areas that they might fill in the floodplain. That's why we say non-coincident. And non-coincident is
Okay.
the
An actual,
the adverb form of the
That-
language on it. Yeah,
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Thank you for that explanation.
sure.
And this is something that we currently do in our review process. We're asking this of the applicants to demonstrate that, but then we're just making it clear in the rule.
Okay, thank you. Next on the same page, little small I, a structure on residential property not intended for human habitation, and we've previously had added and not attached to a habitated structure or something.
Yes, I recall the discussion on the attached versus non-attached.
So you use the same language you used earlier here. And I think, please don't make me read these again.
once is plenty.
Oh, don't worry, there's comments to come and changes to be made yet.
Yeah, I suppose, but I won't read them all. Yep, I'm done. Thank you. With that, I would call a vote.
You know what?
I'm a little
Mr. President?
confused, so
Yeah.
what is it with I, what's the interest?
So I wrote it in, but I have to, earlier, we had to make sure that the residential property structure was not attached to the habitat,
Like a house,
like a house, so it wouldn't, a garage,
right?
a tuck under garage is not exempt. So we had added language that is, and not attached
To the habitat
habitated,
structure.
structure.
Manager Brad.
Yeah,
So-
I think Chris might add some clarity to the intent.
Yeah, that's a good point you have, Mr. President. So if I look under Rule C9,
Page number, please.
yeah, it would be,
Looks like page 44, maybe.
page 48 of the packet, page 25 of the
Rule.
rule.
There it is.
Yeah, that one does say not attached to a habitable structure, so we should
Oh,
go back to the version of that within Rule I and make that
Yes.
exactly the same.
That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Yep.
Not attached to a habitable.
Yeah, that's a
Couldn't read
good
my
catch.
handwriting. Structure.
Okay, so we got the change in now.
Yes,
All right.
he's got it.
And Mr. President, I just had one on page 61.
Yep.
And it may be me, but where the heck is it here? I don't think I got the right page. It was just a, it was just a clarification on a word, so it's not important. I can't,
You can take a moment to let you find it.
I wrote down the wrong page where I had it. I don't know where
Well, maybe it was 621.
if I find it, I'll just,
61, 61 of the rules, which would be page 87.
let me try that. That's it.
There you go.
Under regulation, on A, that didn't, when I read it, I was confused, and I don't know if it's just me or if there's some wording wrong there.
So it reads temporary or permanent work in or over a public drainage system. You may have missed the A in front of.
A, it wasn't, it was including modification of the system. No, yeah, that looks right to me. Never mind.
No, it's hard to read when it's like that.
Mr. President, I have a question. When you're going back to your first one about soil borings or such, when you do soil borings, does it go to a lab for analysis?
It depends on what the purpose of the borings is. If they're doing the borings for the purposes of determining the water table and the ability of the soil to drain, then it would not necessarily go to a soils lab. But certainly, there are plenty of other reasons that you may take borings out there that will go to a lab. But for the purposes of the district and determining whether or not the soil can infiltrate, that typically wouldn't require going to a soils lab. You can do an on-site identification of the soils type and see the features in the soil that indicate where the soils table is. Usually you get like reddish kind of indicators in the soil that indicate the
Water table.
where that water table would be.
And so, if you did go to a soils lab, that's something the district's familiar with, can send samples to a lab and get analysis back. So, for example, phosphorus or nitrogen or composition of the soils, correct?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the district will do oftentimes for its own projects is, especially when you're doing dredging and need to get a soils analysis determined if you have to transport that material to, one place or another to, be able to meet MPCA requirements.
And this has been a common practice, not something that you wouldn't know how to do or somebody would.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
President Bradley, a bit of clarification from the board. It was my understanding at the beginning of this action item, there was a motion, a second, and then an actual vote. Could you clarify what the vote was regarding?
I don't think we had the vote.
We had a vote just to talk about this.
Okay.
Now we're going to have a vote on the resolution itself.
The initial vote was discussion.
Yeah, that's what I said, discussion, for discussion purposes.
Thank you for that clarification, Nick. So, can I have a motion this time?
Now, for the final motion, so that we can move on with the public hearings and such, Mr. President, I'll move Resolution 2405, directing distribution and proposed rule revisions and notice of public hearing. And be it therefore resolved that in accordance with all the legal requirements, the district administrator shall give notice of a public hearing on a proposed rule revisions to be held in conjunction with regular meeting of the board on September 11th, 2024.
I will second that.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Roll call, Mr. President.
Oh, it's a roll call. Thank you.
Page 168.
160.
No wonder I can. Bradley, yes. Robertson, absent. Wagaman,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Wynant, absent. Actually, Marcy, would you care to cast a vote on this?
Yes, I would. Aye.
Mr. Chair,
And that was an aye, I understand.
Mr. Chair, just for the record in the minutes,
Yeah.
we should note that the location of Ms. Manager Wynant, I don't think has been noticed.
I said she was in Texas, but dealing with a family emergency, medical emergency. So I assume you're at one of your kids' houses or something. So we'll leave it there.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll leave it
yes.
there. Okay, moving on. This
Yes,
passes 4-0, one absent.
President Bradley.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the additional item, the Miron Water Quality Grant contractor payment. Molly is here, Molly Nelson, to address this agenda item. There were some additional materials in that supplemental packet provided this morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and managers. Thank you, Nick, for the introduction to the item. For your consideration today, we have W20-02 Miron Water Quality Grant contractor payment of $30,000. Within the packet, you'll see we have the signed voucher from the contractor and the project engineer and the attached invoice associated with the payment. As mentioned, the carried motion on May 22nd, 2024, the payment was approved for prior to project completion. The project is not complete yet, however, it has been approved by the engineer for the release of funds. Staff requested the engineer to be present today to answer any questions. Unfortunately, he could not be present, so if there's any questions that you may have, I can get you in contact with the engineer.
Are there any questions?
Well,
No.
Mr. President, I'll move that approval of W20-02 cost share voucher payment to Asheville Companies as submitted and certified by the Outreach and Grant Technician Nelson, and direct staff to issue payment in the amount of $30,000.
Second?
Mr. President,
Any discussion?
yes, thank you, Molly. Those are wonderful photographs and for your work on this. This is a little out of the usual, but I appreciate all the help that you and have done on this. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. RC, you want to speak on that one or not? I don't think it's necessary. Yep, go ahead.
Aye.
There you go.
Aye, and it's a fabulous project, and Molly, those pictures were great, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Administrator.
Yes. President Bradley, next item on the agenda is the biennial solicitation of professional services for 2025-2026. The materials are found on page 170 of the initial packet. We're looking for authorization to post a notice. Every 2 years, you're obligated to do this by statute. It's for your professional services, for anything that provided to the district needs is on a retainer rather than a specific project basis. for the district that includes engineer, attorney, accountant, human resource consultant, and information technologies. You last completed this in 2022. We'll be posting, with your approval, the notice in the district official newspaper and posting on the district website, as well as contacting each of our current professional services consultants. We're looking for expertise in watershed district matters, their hourly billing rates for the coming timeframe, and the names and qualifications of the personnel. We'll give them about 1 month for those responses and look to bring it back for your consideration at the October 7th workshop, at which time you can determine if you'd like to dive deeper and interview the individuals based on their submitted information or not. There was a request for a change in the notice, which is found on page 171. A new one's in the amended materials that was handed out in the packet. The change is simply that in the opening block of text, we added the human resource consultant as well as the information technologies to the needs of the district so that it's consistent throughout the document.
Are there any questions of Nick? Hearing none, I will move approval of the solicitation of interest notice for professional services to be processed in the procedures outlined by Nick in this discussion. So I move to authorize administrator to publish in the district's official newspaper, post on district website, and distribute to its current consultants the solicitation of interest notice for professional services.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Marcy.
President Bradley, Board of Managers. Next on the agenda is the Clean Water Council letter. I'll be handling that item. It is found on page 20 of the materials, the last page of the amended materials handed out this morning. Basically, the Minnesota Watershed sent out a solicitation for a call of action. We know that the Clean Water Council is considering its fiscal year 26 and through 27 recommendations and potential changes in allocations to the Clean Water Fund grants and funding that the district often uses. With that, many watershed districts, including the district, benefit from the continued funding at the current levels or similar to that. And the letter is in that packet that I noted for the district president to sign. The letter identifies a select number of our most important projects, I would say, or significant projects that we've put on the landscape. Obviously, there are others beyond that, but does put forth that this is a valuable asset in the district completing its work. So with that, we appreciate your endorsement of the board president signing it and communicating that out to the Clean Water Council.
Are there any questions of Nick? Marcy, I want to acknowledge that the fine work that the Clean Water Fund competition grants have benefited us, allowed us to do such important projects as those listed on this letter. And we thank you for your service in advising and assisting watershed districts in the metro area and others to obtain such grants. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to have the full council actually understand what those watershed-based implementation funds are about. So we're getting a good response from the watersheds, and certainly it's educational for all the members. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
So any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 It passes 4-0.
Did you want me to do
Yes, I
this,
do.
or Marcy?
I think we'll do that.
Okay. Mr. President, I move to approve the check register dated July 24th, 2024, in the amount of $239,963.25, and July interim financial statements prepared by Redpath and Company.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Okay, that takes us to staff reports.
That's correct. Staff reports on page 202 of the initial packet for board consideration.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Marcy, you're welcome to comment if you would like. If not, we'll accept them as proposed, provided.
Yeah. Yep. Informational item. Second informational item is the August calendar, which is, I believe, on the very last page of your packet. Yep, 219. I'll just note for myself that I'll be out of town on August 28th, and Patrick will be covering the board meeting on that date.
Great. I'm glad you're going to be doing something useful. Like a vacation.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess that takes us, what, to your updates?
Correct. Administrator updates. I'll make note for the record that all the materials that were handed out to you this morning, I forgot to mention, are posted on the website and available here at the meeting. Beyond that, Rice Creek continues to work with DNR on ACD 102232. They did offer us a response. We're intending to bring that back to the September workshop for the board to digest and give us further direction. Chris did attend the drainage work group meeting recently. There's a lot going on there. Is there any update that you might want to share, Chris?
Mr. President, Board of Managers, I think I talked a little bit about that the previous meeting. Again, you know, some of the hot topics that they have going on include in noticing requirements, you know, trying to get those consistent, and then the changes to statute that related to Clean Water Act, or I should say the Wetland Conservation Act, and to DNR public waters. So I anticipate that they're going to be having more discussion on those items coming up. They do have another meeting that will be coming up in August. I unfortunately won't be able to make it to that one. I'll be on vacation, but I'll try to see if I can have another Houston Engineering representative attend and just to be able to hear what's going on.
Mr. President, Chris, were there, you mentioned that the drainage 103E and the Wetland Conservation Act, were there changes in the environmental committee's bill this year to 103D or 103B? And did you attend any meetings with these or intend to? I had the impression from the last meeting that you were going to attend both. There were two separate areas and you were going to attend both of them.
As far as 103D, there were a number of modifications to 103D that were kind of administrative type items. I think we've talked about them here. Lewis led a discussion on a lot of those. So they haven't been discussed at the drainage work group yet specifically. Then there also was some discussion regarding the Environmental Quality Board and the mandatory EAW, AEIS categories. I did attend a meeting on that with the Environmental Quality Board that we brought up concerns on that, and you know, some of the concerns included having an understanding of what public waters are, because the statutory changes really make it challenging to now to understand what a public water is, given that they you know, essentially have taken away the mapping as a resource to be able to use. Now, DNR is starting a process now to do remapping of public waters, and hopefully that will provide a better insight to people to have an understanding of, whether this thing or that thing is public water, but that's going to be a multi-year process. I would imagine it's going to be like 4 or 5 years before they get the full remapping of all those across the state done.
Mr. President, particularly, Chris, was there any change to the definition of what a project is in 103D or 103B? Do you recall that, or have changed? Have you seen
I
that?
wouldn't know that as far as a watershed district project. Lewis probably could answer that, though.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chair, Manager Waller, there is not specifically a change in the definition of a capital improvement project. There were several procedural changes related to the planning process and the ordering of projects. I'd be happy to follow up with you as you wish.
Yes, I guess I'll have to see them in print is what I'd like to see, Lewis, if you have them. But no changes for the word project in D, in the Delta,
Correct.
just in the other one. All right? Yes, I'd like to see those. Thank you.
Could I be copied on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Send them off.
Be fair to the whole board, please, Lewis.
Yeah.
Once you go to 2, you might as well.
Yeah. I didn't mean to exclude
No,
you,
no,
sir.
I wasn't hurt. My feelings were not hurt.
Yes, Chair Bradley, Lewis did acknowledge that. He'll send it blind copy to all of you. Moving on from there, piggyback on what Chris said, Minnesota Watersheds has a committee regarding the 103 notification. I've been asked to participate in that as a metro watershed with public drainage. So look forward to that and provide you with any updates. Next item for me is about Minnesota Watersheds resolutions process. We touched on this before. We had some discussion about one of the sunsetting resolutions, 1901. That, as I dug into it along with Kendra, is not a paramount issue of Rice Creek. It came from Boys to Sioux Watershed District, had to do with some matters they had there with release of water from lakes and its downstream impact to ditches, et cetera. But the ones that the district itself has had either initiated or had a heightened interest in remain on the books at Minnesota Watersheds. So we'll leave it there unless the board has further direction. And then the final item, the City of New Brighton, I'll just make mention, did receive a Minnesota Pollution Control Agency resiliency grant for studying the ditch near 10th Street Northwest. It's actually a private road near the apartment building that had the flooding issues in the past and a part of our Ramsey County Ditch 2, 3, and 5. So it's good for to acknowledge the collaboration and the independence that all the interested parties are taking and having that be successful. That's all I have.
John?
Well, Mr. President, I don't have a whole lot today, but I do want to, again, thank Miss Molly Nelson for her extra work on this and on the project for the manure facility. And also, I'd want to note that thank you, Teresa, for sending me the updates from the Minnesota Watersheds Association and the opportunity to see that on the back page, Mr. Koshin is featured as one of the speakers. And this is kind of a quarterly event thing. They have an education workshop, and there he is. Although I have to say that I'm sure it was more clear in the computer than it was in my actual print here. But it was nice to see Matthew there. Thank you.
Steve?
I have nothing.
And I can't think of anything to add either. Thank you all for your participation today, including Marcy. Thank you for taking time out from the issues you're dealing with. I appreciate your attendance and
Hope it
participation.
goes well.
Yes, thank you. One update I would say is the CAC meeting in August. They usually have a tour. I understand it's going to see the Blaine wetland. And Nick, if you can have Kendra send that information to the board, because the board usually attends that also.
Yeah, that, John
do.
is the official coverage.
I think, John, you're on to cover it. So just a note, and thank you for allowing me to attend this way. So best to you all.
Thank you, Marcia.
Now I'll go see what Delta has in store for me.
Okay, good luck.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Anything further? If not, a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you all.
Mr. Smith, before you run away,